One of the most entertaining things on Path of Exile and Path of Exile 2 is the infinite amount of combinations that you can do to make things go boom, to make things explode, to kill things. And with my warrior, I've done like several combinations that are amazing. This specific combination, it's going to be amazing. It truly is just overpowered for exploration because you just tap a couple of buttons, a couple of combination, like you just need to prepare something and it's going to make everything explode, like you can see in here. So you don't really have to worry about clearing maps because this is a chain of explosions that it is going to kill things really fast, and it's just basically relying on one single skill. Well, it relies a little bit, it makes two skills overkill, and as a matter of fact, overkill is one of the things that we are using. Anyways, I digress. We're using bone shatter in here, and the preparation and the combos that you need for this to work, like you quite literally can carry throughout the first part of the campaign just by using this thing. I have been using this on Cruel as well, and it just works wonder. That is, of course, you do need to have like a proper weapon. Remember that your skills scale to some extent on your weapon damage. The overall DPS that you get is from the weapon damage, from your passive tree. If you're curious about the build that we're using in here, I'll leave the link in the video description so that you can see the build that I'm using for this thing right here. But overall, we are just going to be using two skills in here. It's a synergy. It's a very simple, very effective combo in here that it's bone shatter. Basically, what this does is that every time that you prime a stun upon an enemy, there's going to be this little dot that it's going to appear onto the enemy, and you don't really need to do that much stun damage to be able to make this happen. So essentially what this is going to do is that it's going to immediately stun the enemy. You don't really need to make a stun build for this to work. It's just going to be amazing because with the build that I have, with the damage that I have, I usually just touch one enemy and this immediately procs. Once this thing procs, that's when things start exploding. But the chain of explosion, we're actually doing it with something different as well. We're using the Herald of Ash. This is a gem. This is a skill for a mace, and this is a buff. This is persistent AoE damage, and it also benefits from fire damage. So if you want to go into the passive 3 and you want to be upscaling the fire damage quite a little bit, that's going to be amazing, although that's one of the downsides, that it is elemental damage, which is not going to be that amazing against the fire resistant enemies. That being said, most of the DPS we are actually getting it from the bone shatter, and it's a synergy in here. Basically, this is going to give you overkill damage. What is overkill damage? The overkill damage is the damage that you deal to an enemy beyond the health threshold that they have. So for example, just a quick example, let's say that they have 10 points in remaining health, and then you deal 100 points. You get 90 points of overkill damage. Those 90 points of overkill damage are going to be spread in a AoE upon all of the enemies that you have in front of you. And that's just a simple example. If you have a proficient weapon, if your damage is quite enough as the one that I have right here, right now, it's going to combine with the bone shatter and it's going to make everything explode. So essentially what you're doing is that you want to cause one bone shatter in the just one tap on the enemy, like I am doing all throughout this playthrough that I have for you right here, this gameplay that I have for you in the background. All you really have to do is just tap on one enemy. What is the downside of this? This is mainly a combination that you are going to be using for exploration. And this is because on bosses, like, you're not going to be able to have like the overkill. The whole idea of overkill, it's mob damage, to clean trash fast. This is what you're going to be using this for, to clean trash fast. Because when it comes to bosses, the overkill damage, it doesn't matter, because the overall idea of fighting a boss is just to reach the health bar of the boss to the final state. Although one very cool thing that happens sometimes is that in some instances some bosses summon little enemies. These little enemies, they do massive, and I mean massive, humongous amounts of damage to the boss whenever you explode them. So it is not necessarily going to be entirely useless when you're fighting against bosses. It's just not going to be as amazing as for clearing mobs. And that's the ideal thing, that you are going to be using this thing for exploration, for clearing maps, for looking for loot, and just overall exploring. The other downside, that it is not that much of a downside, is that you do need to have a properly established build, and you do need to have somewhat to be taking care of the overall damage that you do, because remember, this combination in here, it's based on the overkill, and you ideally want to have huge amounts of damage. Bone Shatter is going to deal tremendous amounts of damage. So as you can see right in here, as I have it, it's close to 200% of my base attack damage. My base attack damage, it's humongous. I usually one-shot things, more often than not. Nearly I close to one-shot things whenever I deal damage to them. Meaning that even if I am dealing all of that damage, that's going to be doubled by 200%, 182%. That is going to be transferred, that is going to be conveyed into the overkill damage. Whenever you kill something, whenever you use the Bone Shatter, this is going to spread in a wide AoE, meaning that all of that AoE damage is going to be combining with the overkill damage that you are going to be dealing to the enemies, and also it's going to be combining with the explosions that happen with the enemies. That is why it doesn't matter like what kind of type of trash fight you're fighting, and if you're fighting like elite enemies, this is also amazing for elite enemies, because let's say for example that you have a mini boss in front of you and it's giving you a whole bunch of trouble, then you don't really have to focus on the mini boss. You just one tap the singular regular enemies that are around that mini boss, and if you explode them, it's going to cost to explode all of the other things. So yes, I can't stress enough how amazing this is for exploration, but then again, it is mostly for exploration. Yes, it has some uses against bosses, but overall it's going to make your cruising throughout maps, exploring maps and finding secrets and going out, leveling your character. It's going to make your character level quite good because of how amazing at cleaning trash this is. Anyways, if you like the content, like and never super appreciated. Not all you today, you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel, join the Discord. Have a beautiful day. Goodbye.